Well, joining us now from Westminster is the assistant editor of The Guardian, Michael White, and in Edinburgh is the writer and broadcaster Lesley Riddoch. Thank you both for joining us. Lesley Riddoch, Alistair Carmichael has admitted his mistake, he's apologised. Doesn't he deserve a second chance?
Well, you know, it seems to me the people who need a second chance are the voters of Orkney and Shetland. There's nobody's opinion matters really, particularly in all of this, except them. And I mean, if they had known what we all know now, as you heard on the package there, some people might have voted otherwise. Now, the difficulty is that people there, who knows what the public opinion is? You can take a straw poll, you can stop people in the street, there's a petition going round. The irony and the difficulty of all of this is that the time that Alistair Carmichael chose to not be fully truthful, as he puts it, was the most critical time in a democracy. It was during an election. Now, that's the only way you get to know what a set of people think about their MP. And these guys are going to have to wait for another 5 years to have their say. So I think it's them that need a second chance. The House of Commons has put through legislation, it's just not commenced yet, for a mechanism that allows voters to recall an MP. Now, in the spirit of that, that's the direction the House of Commons wants to take to try to clean up its act. So it seems to me that Alistair Carmichael should at least consider acting in the spirit of that.
Michael White, he said that if he had still been a minister, he would have resigned, but he's not doing that as an MP. What's the difference?
Well, he got access to this memo as a minister, and he authorised its leaking. And whether or not the memo was true, I don't know. You get conflicting versions of that, Miss Sturgeon preferred David Cameron. Well, that's probably true. Whether or not she said it to the French ambassador, I don't know. But he shouldn't have done it.
Everyone has hotly disputed that, Michael. Nobody is now saying
I know
that's true.
Don't interrupt, Lesley. I know that, but it's also true that a Tory government down in the south suits the government in Holyrood better than a Labour government, I would have thought. Never mind. The fact is that Lesley talks of this recall of Parliament, recall of MPs Act. In order for that legislation to kick in, even if it had been commenced, as she puts it, it had to have been either sent to jail or suspended from the Commons for 21 days. I have to tell you, there's no chance whatsoever of that happening. Malcolm Bruce was wrong when he said politicians lie. They do lie, but so do company chairmen, so do football managers, so do policemen sometimes, as we know. Journalists, believe it or not, tell lies too. They've been in the Old Bailey in London in the last few months, and I believe there's a case involving lying in your courts at the moment. Even voters lie. We know voters lie because they misled the electorate. They misled the opinion pollsters. Down here they did, anyway, not at your end. They misled them something rotten. It's a fact of life. It's not attractive. The man did it. He shouldn't have done it. He's apologised. Let the voters decide in due course. You don't think elected him.
For the time being, Michael White, he should stay where he is as far as you're concerned?
Well, I don't think he's done anything which warrants him either to resign or to be forced out. You can see why some people want him out. That puzzles me too, because you know, he's alleged to have damaged Nicola Sturgeon, so she only won 56 out of 59, and that's not enough. They want the 57th. Not very attractive. We need opposition in politics to make politics work, even in Holyrood.
Lesley Riddoch, there's a crowdfunding campaign has been going on for the last 24 hours to bring a legal challenge against his election. It's standing at £20,000 and more this evening. Does it really need this?
Does it need that mechanism to try to express people's desire to have a recall of the election? Well, it looks like it might do, unless Alistair Carmichael, I think, does the decent thing, stands down. Now, you know, there's nothing as queer as folk. It's quite possible he might be reselected as the Lib Dem candidate to run again, and it's quite possible people might vote for him. That's democracy. What's being discussed now is just games playing. It may seem from the perspective of Westminster that yes, everybody lies. The big difference is MPs are public servants. Call me old-fashioned, but that actually should be more important than the behaviour of all the different categories that were mentioned earlier. Well, and the only way people are going to get a chance to express themselves for 5 years now over this And I wouldn't like to be Alistair Carmichael being uncertain where he stands, is to have another election.
We will go on to the broader issue of politicians lying momentarily, but Sir Malcolm Bruce said in his interview today, the SNP are trying to bully a very good MP out of office for a mistake he's acknowledged and apologised for. Lesley Riddoch.
Well, you know, if this is an extraordinary one. I mean, I can see people might think, yeah, there's 56 SNP MPs. Why do you need that last one? If you are living in Orkney and Shetland, it doesn't matter if the whole of the rest of Scotland was Labour, Lib Dem, Tory or SNP. It's your MP that you're talking about here. It doesn't matter really how everyone else is doing. There's a specific wrong being done to that electorate, and that's the one Alistair's in a position to remedy. So that seems to me to be the important thing. This idea that the SNP have kind of run riot, as it were, with Scotland, well, the Conservatives have got 100% of the control of Westminster with 37% of the vote. Okay. There's a lot of over-representation in this archaic and rather useless Westminster system, thanks to first past the post.
Michael White.
Well, I'm astonished at the idea that lies by city traders, one of them's in court as well at the moment, not enough of them in court, matter less than Alistair Carmichael going into the old game of leaking and covering up, which is as old as history. You read Victorian novels, they're full of all this sort of stuff. The idea that the damage done by the investment bankers of this country, Edinburgh as well as London, is more or less important than Alistair Carmichael astonishes me. As for Lesley Riddoch claiming to speak for the voters of Orkney and Shetland, I don't live there, I don't claim to, and nor does she. And it's up to them.
I don't.
Right, then let them decide. Let the local Lib Dem activists decide what they want, and then in due course we'll see what happens to Carmichael. This is a storm in a teacup. Lesley will find something else to get overexcited about by the end of next week.
Lesley Riddoch, a storm in a teacup.
Well, Michael, I know you're trying to wind me up here. You do sound awfully patronising. I mean, if we don't value anything in the electoral process, like people covering up, basically, whether the leak was the biggest part of it, whether it was actually the lies that were then told about his involvement, I think it was that latter thing that scunnered most people here. But, you know, this is exactly what so many people in Scotland have got sick about with Westminster, that it seems anything's acceptable. The defence for Alistair Carmichael is that everybody lies, or that he's been there for 14 years. Great. That doesn't get round the point.
Okay,
Orkney and Shetland are due another chance to make their voices heard.
I'm going to let you into a secret. In the run-up to the referendum last September 18th, Alex Salmond misled the good people of Scotland over Scotland's future relationship with the EU. An FOI request was made to get out the legal opinion on which he rested his public remarks, and he used public money far more than was used over Carmichael to resist all this. Now, it's not the end of the world. We know why he did it, and people could see it, and they still elect him as MP for Gordon.
Michael. You've said the crucial thing. People could see it. That whole argument was had out in public for about 6 months. Nobody knew about Alistair Carmichael's involvement in this until he admitted to it after the election. It's a timing issue and it's an honesty issue.
Oh, we're getting down. So it's okay for Alex Salmond to mislead the people of Scotland as long as they can see it, but it's not okay for Carmichael to do this relatively unimportant thing compared with Scotland's relations with the European Union. You seem to be hopping around a bit. At least I'm consistent. I say that whether they're Tory, Labour, Liberal, or even when the time comes Scotnat MP, it's up to their constituents, not for a lynch mob on Twitter or people like you and me pontificating in a television studio.
And there, I'm afraid we'll have to leave it. Thank you both for taking part in that discussion this evening. Thank you, Michael White and Lesley Riddoch.